Shields up, Iron Breakers. Rurikhan here coming at you with another video, and today we're going to be talking about EATER 3. So for those of you that are not aware, there's currently a demo on the PlayStation Store, but if you want to check it out, you'll want to download it as fast as possible because it is only going to be available throughout this weekend. And I got to tell you guys, I went into this demo already with a really bad feeling for EATER 3 because from the gameplay footage that they had shown, it looked like it hadn't really evolved all that much from EATER 2. Now, I'll be honest and I'll say that EATER 2 and EATER Resurrection, when those came out on PS4, I was particularly lenient with those titles because I was aware that these were much older games. They were being ported from the PlayStation Portable, and therefore the bar was set pretty low for what I was expecting from them. And on that case, I actually thought that they were pretty good. I thought that these were some really solid games, and I think that they definitely have a bit of a niche following of a bunch of people that really do enjoy these games. And it's cool because the story is cool, the anime cutscenes are cool. The gameplay, you know, it's like I said, it is a niche title. Not everybody is going to enjoy that gameplay, but the gameplay loop is very similar to something like Monster Hunter. You have your hub, you go in there, you go on missions, and then you go and you take out a bunch of monsters. Now, that's pretty much where it ends because, you know, you have your different weapons and stuff like that, but this game uses a lot of different things like the devour mechanics, the burst mechanics, the gun swap, the weapon swapping into guns mode, and all of that stuff. It really sets itself apart from Monster Hunter in that regard. But the biggest problem that I have with it is the fact that it is releasing in 2019, and it is not that big of an evolution from EATER 2, which is a game that was on the friggin' PlayStation Portable. Like, what the hell are you doing? Like, I guess the first thing that we can talk about is the visuals, which are not particularly impressive. I mean, sure, I think the game looks decent, but I don't think it's gonna, like, blow anybody's mind or anything like that. You look at these visuals and like, okay, it looks okay, but it's nothing amazing, right? And you guys know what my motto is with this kind of stuff. To me, a game does not have to be the best looking game of all times, but if your game is not pushing the boundaries of what we expect visually, then it better run buttery smooth. You better optimize the crap out of your game so that, you know, it doesn't have to be the best looking game, but you have to bring performance in that case. And that's the first step where it clearly fails. At least in my console, in my PlayStation 4 Pro, this game runs like ass. There's no other way to describe it. The frame rate is all over the place. It feels inconsistent. It feels like it goes above 30, then it goes below 20, then it goes above 40, then it goes below 20. And I hate that, okay? You might as well just stabilize it at 30 if you're not going to be able to push 60. Which, to be completely honest, with the visuals that you got going in EATER 3, you really should be pushing 60. No excuses whatsoever. Then the other problem that I have with the game is the controls. And I understand, if you're coming from EATER, the previous EATER titles, you're going to be like, oh, the controls feel fine. Exactly, because they're dated from back fucking PlayStation Portable, dude. You're familiar with those controls because you've been playing EATER non-stop, and, you know, God bless you for that. But Jesus Christ, the world has changed, okay? Like, how are you going to have a weapon that swaps into a gun and then you're going to fire it pressing square? Who thought this was a good idea? L2, R2, it's not that hard. And it's not even like those buttons are doing anything particularly important that it's like, oh God, no, we couldn't do it because L2 and R2 are doing all of these other different things. No, dude, you're using R2 as a friggin' modifier and you could use R1 to do the same thing, which you're already using, and I don't even understand why R1 plus X does not do the special jump. I really don't get it, okay? I don't understand why you have this modifier on R1 to do all of these different things, but for some reason, the new jump, you can't do that on R1 plus X. You have to do it on R2, and it's just, why? What the fuck? Who designed these controls? These are like user-hostile controls. Maybe I'm exaggerating a little bit. Maybe guys are like, come on, Rurikhan, you're pushing it a little bit, but it's because the bar has been set so high now. Because Monster Hunter World came out. You can't pretend that, you know, people aren't used to playing these Monster Hunter-like games anymore because it's just not the case. And I understand some people are going to say, Rurikhan, come on, EATER's not a Monster Hunter game. And it's like, look, the loop is incredibly similar to Monster Hunter, okay? You have your hub, where you go and you take on your missions, and then you head out on your missions, Usually you can go in parties of 4. The difference here is you actually take NPCs with you instead of taking players. Even though you can still take players, you can do the whole 4-player co-op multiplayer thing. And actually bringing NPCs with you, I kind of feel like that's another downside, which I accepted in God Eater 2 because, like I said, this game came out on PSP. It's an old game, whatever, it's fine. But, like, in here, a lot of the times, the fact that there's these 3 additional NPCs with you on a mission on what I would consider to be a somewhat small map, and the maps also feel incredibly dated, but I'm not even going to go there. But either way, it's like you got these 3 other characters just like wailing on this monster, and you're just like, a lot of the times I was even wondering, well, am I the one dealing the damage? Are they the ones dealing the damage? Like, I guess most of the damage actually comes from the player character, because I remember when I equipped the biggest, meatiest weapon, the greatsword equivalent, I think that was the fastest that we killed the monster, which also made me wonder, does that mean that the balance on the weapons is a little bit whack? Because I played against this one encounter, because it's the only real meaningful encounter in this demo, unless you go and do the raid, which the raid was a complete clusterfuck in my opinion. There's this different mission mode that they have now, which is called Assault. And I just went in there, and basically it was me, 3 other players, and then they filled the room with NPCs because apparently there weren't enough people playing the game. And it was so chaotic, again, especially with the performance of the game being completely all over the place, unacceptable. And it was just weird because, like, I'd be fighting the monster and I'd be full health, and then suddenly, like, boom, one punch and you'd be just like 10% health. And I was like, holy crap, okay, I guess I got hit by a really nasty attack. Then I would heal, then the same thing would happen, and then I saw like 2 people die, and then we got back up. And then next thing I knew, I look at the timer, it's like, oh, the timer's almost up, and we lost because we weren't able to deal enough damage within the time limit that you had or whatever. It just didn't feel like a good encounter, so I didn't really went after the whole raid thing again. I just stuck with the strongest mob that you had in this mode, and I tried out different weapons, I tried out different rage bursts. There's also this linking thing, which I guess you kind of share some kind of passive abilities with certain NPCs so that they become more powerful. They can also share certain abilities with you so that you become more powerful. It's basically you're sharing some of your passives amongst each other to buff each other and whatnot, which you can also do with the guns, by the way. I've told you guys that one of the main differences that this game has is that you're going to pick your weapon, but you always have a ranged weapon with you as well. So you have your melee weapon and your ranged weapon as well as a shield, and all of these are like 3 different things. That's another thing. Shield, in order for you to block, you have to press R1 and circle. R1 and circle. What the hell? Who came up with that? It's like, who was like, hey, you know how we're gonna make people block what? R1 and circle. What the fuck? Anyway, beyond the point. So you have a shield, a melee weapon, and a gun, and you can kind of like swap between your melee weapon and your gun. The way this works is you deal damage with your melee weapon that charges up your gun, and then you can swap into your gun, and you can fire bullets until you run out of that energy, which is called OP or whatever it was, and then you have to swap back into melee and go back into doing those. I think that certain weapons can also use the energy that is generated by the melee attacks to do some special moves. Like I remember the, I don't know if it's a short sword, what you want to call it. It's like, because there's a knife, then there's a sword, then there's a great sword. It's the one in the middle, that sword. I think it's called a heat sword, whatever. And that one, you can do like a special move that spends the OP gauge as well. I'm assuming some of the other weapons might be able to do that too. But essentially, the other problem that you then have is the lock-on is bad. It's really bad. For starters, the lock-on consistently turns off. I don't know why. It's not because of the distance. It almost seems like, okay, I'm locked onto the monster. Monster jumps behind me. Lock-on does fuck all and just completely ignores that I was locked on. I was like, well, what's the point of it then? If you're not gonna help me, why do I need lock-on to begin with? It doesn't make any goddamn sense. And it's a lot of times it's hard for you to like figure out where'd the boss go, where'd the creature that I'm fighting, where'd he go? Because he just moves so fast, and I guess I could have increased the camera sensitivity or something, but I didn't really bother with that stuff. But it's like I found that stuff to be particularly challenging, and the fact that the lock-on system was not particularly good was also very frustrating. But then on top of that, you feel like your weapons have no impact. You're hitting on this monster, and every now and then you'll see like this animation that indicates, hey, you've done something. The monster took a lot of damage, but it doesn't feel satisfying because the monster doesn't go reeling. It just feels like you're wailing on something and nothing's really happening. So you see, one of the things that Monster Hunter and Dark Souls games are able to do really well is convey a sense of weight to your weapon, because when you actually land an attack on an enemy, you can see that the enemy reacts to that attack in a certain way. You can feel that this weapon has weight and that the attack that he just did, hurt him. And that is an incredibly satisfying thing when it happens. And in this game, I think I very, very rarely felt that. And you guys might say, oh, but you were playing mostly with small weapons. No, I played with the great sword, and there were times where I just did 3 full charged attacks back to back, and it just didn't feel meaty. I didn't feel the weight of that great sword, which is ultimately very unsatisfying. And when you tie all of these things together, it's like, I'm sure that it'll have a cool story, because all of the God Eater games have cool stories and cool animations that go with it. But ultimately, it's 2019, and I cannot look at this gameplay and just be okay with it, because for starters, it's a clusterfuck. It's a mess, whatever is happening whenever you're fighting, and I like feeling like I'm in control of my character. I like feeling like, no, I'm doing this combo thing, I'm doing this thing, and with certain weapons, I was able to get that every now and then, but there's just so much happening on screen, so many things for you to keep tabs on. Make sure that you do the Devour so that you stay in burst mode. I don't even know what the hell causes burst mode to go beyond level 1. I think your teammates have to shoot you with a special bullet or something like that, because I would keep devouring and it would just stay at level 1. So that's something that I didn't even understand how that particular mechanic worked. I know that I fired at some of my teammates to boost them from time to time, but so there's the rage mechanics, then there's the OP mechanics, where every now and then you'll switch into gun. Particularly, I was using gun whenever the mob would enrage, so that I could keep my distance and just pelt him with the gun. Then you have to deal with the poor controls for the gun, where you have to shoot using square and triangle. And gladly, there's a new weapon, which is a laser. It's almost like they realized, oh my god, our controls are so bad. Let's just design a weapon that they only have to press square once, and then the weapon will just unload, and you don't have to spam square to shoot, because that doesn't make any goddamn fucking sense. It's almost like they figured that out, and they designed the weapon that works okay without you needing to actually fire it. So there's the whole thing with the OP. Then you also have to keep track of your energy. You have to keep track of your stamina, which is stuff that you have to do in other games. But the UI is not particularly helpful at that, because your health gauge is so friggin' tiny that a lot of the times that I died was because I didn't even notice that I was low health. As a matter of fact, a weird thing is when you devour an enemy, I always think that when I'm devouring that I've taken massive damage, because they fill your screen around you with blood, and I'm just like, oh shit, I must have taken damage. And then I look at the health gauge and I'm like, no, I'm full. Oh, right, because I devoured. So it's almost like they can't make your screen go red when you take a lot of damage, but they'll make it go red when you devour an enemy, and I'm just like, oh, come on. This is 2019, dude. You can't do this. And I gotta be honest, now that I've played the demo for this game, I'm really concerned about Code Vein. Now, all things indicate that Code Vein is being developed by a completely separate team, and every person that has played Code Vein, I think that Eric's has played it, I think that Fightin' Cowboy has played it, and I'm not sure if I don't think Ian V has played it, I'm not sure. But either way, I know that a bunch of content creators have played it, and they've all said, it's real good, it feels solid, and all of that stuff, but Code Vein is being developed by the same studio. Sure, it's a different team, but the engine looks incredibly similar to the engine that is being used in God Eater 3, and one of the problems that I have with that is, like I said, the weapons in God Eater 3 just do not feel satisfying. They do not feel weighty. They do not feel meaty. I don't know. And here's the thing. Maybe you guys can come at me and say, well, Rurikhan, that's because this demo hasn't been properly polished and all of that stuff. And I'll be honest, I only watched a couple of trailers for God Eater 2. I have not been following the development of this game particularly heavy because up until, I played the demo, I always thought I'm just going to get this game and play it and whatever. But after playing through the demo, I was just like, Jesus Christ, it's 2019, man. The bar is set way higher than this. At least in my thought. Or maybe I'm just getting old, or I don't know, but it doesn't feel right. Now, I want to hear from you guys. Am I wrong? If I'm wrong, then sure, type it out in the comments. Tell me all the things that I'm wrong about. Let's have a discussion. Let's talk about this. But I want to hear from you guys, particularly if you have played the demo. Like I said, it's going to be up throughout this weekend, so you guys go and download it, check it out for yourselves, and just let me know. Am I the one who's wrong? Is my PS4 fucked up and the performance is actually good? Let me know in the comment section below. Thank you guys very much for watching. If you guys enjoyed this video, hit it with a like button. If you guys do not enjoy the video, hit it with the dislike button. Like I've said, the important thing is rate it. Tell me what you thought about the video. Once again, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.